Welcome in, everybody, to the Please Stay Inside podcast. My name is Rob. This is episode number 13. We are joined today by Jamie the Optimist. They are a musician. They have created their own project called The Jamie Show over on YouTube. You can check out right now. They also have the Hey, How You Doing podcast. They got music out. They've got a lot of different things going on. So, Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, Jamie, as I said, a lot of different things going on. You've got a lot of different projects going on, which is really a wonderful thing. But tell us a bit about you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Jamie Polson. I am a musician, video content creator, artist, juggler, Renaissance person from Philadelphia. I graduated from Ursinus College last year with a double major in music and communications. And now I'm basically just trying to figure out what it is that I want to do in the real world. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Wonderful. And it seems like you, again, you have many different options open, it seems. You are a very creative person, it seems like. I wonder where do you feel like that creativity was cultivated? How do you feel like you've become such a creative person?
Yeah, so I think a large part of it comes from like the way that I was raised and like early education. I've as I say in the first episode of the Jamie Show, I've always been a curious person. And have always wanted to learn more about the world around me and myself as well, and like how I identify. And so I've always loved the learning process, and always loved learning new things and being bad at things, but then figuring them out. And I'm sure part of it comes from my ADHD of constantly finding new things and being obsessed with them for a little bit, and then discovering something new, and then just having a million things going on at one time. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I know exactly how that can be. There are so many things that I've started and stopped, and I myself have played music for quite a while. I've written things, and I was never able to get into like the physical art. That seems to be a talent that misses me. But I definitely get what you're talking about. And I get how the ADHD, I guess, at least from my perspective, it can push us further into something that now seems more interesting to us. And it seems like it's taken you a lot of different places. And one of the things that I know you talked about here, and it was a really central theme in your first episode of the Jamie Show, was about chasing curiosity. And so I guess from your perspective, what does it mean to chase curiosity? I'll start there.
So for me, chasing curiosity is all about being open to discovering new things. And I feel like in society nowadays that we have so much opportunity to learn more about the world and ourselves, but we rarely do anything about it. That we're always inside just scrolling through social media and seeing all these other people live their lives, but don't really do anything about our own. And so I feel like chasing curiosity is all about leaning into what you want to learn about, and just going into that and learning new things and trying new things and getting out of your comfort zone and just learning more about what it is that you love in the world, and trying to do those things or be those things.
Yeah, I love that. Embracing the opportunity to learn something new, to explore something new, just to take that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. So What is it, I guess, just from your perspective, from your experience, what do you feel like can sometimes keep people from wanting to be more curious, to want to, I guess, put themselves out there and, try new things?
Yeah, I feel like a big part of it is the fear of failure that
Mm,
I think is so prevalent in people, that we don't want to look silly on the internet in front of people. We don't want to show that we're bad at something,
mm,
because at least with like certain social medias, it's all about showing the best parts of your life, kind of like a highlight reel of your own experience. And so very few people show like the bad sides of their life, of like trying to figure something out. um, and so I think that stops a lot of people from going further into what it is that they want to do. And that's something that I'm really trying to work on in myself.
mm. That ability to be able to try and fail and I guess be okay with it.
Exactly.
I get that, and that really can be such a difficult hurdle. I think definitely for the reasons you talk about that, um, we are constantly fed this narrative that the successful people are so perfect, and we don't get to see them fail, and the pictures, the videos, everything that people put out, it's been through so much before it gets to you. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, people lose sight of that a lot. So I guess through the project that you're doing through the Jamie show, I guess how do you attempt to I guess embody this message of being okay with making some mistakes from here and there, or even just not even limited to the Jamie show. Just how do you attempt to embody that? I know you said that that's part of where you're trying to grow right now as well.
Yeah. I think it's definitely been a struggle in trying to figure that out. But I think the main thing that's driving it right now is attempting to care less
Mm,
about what other people think, and realizing that my own ideas and my own opinions are really the only ones that matter, and that I'm not trying to do anything that I do to like perform for other people, but I'm just doing it for myself and for the love of creating whatever it is that I want to create.
mm, yeah, I like that. And I mean, for you, I guess what can you think of, I guess, an experience or just a moment where curiosity, it did lead to something that perhaps you didn't expect? It led to something that was, really, it made the journey worthwhile.
Yeah, so I think one prime example from very recently was uh, the walk that I did in the woods at the end of the first episode of the Jamie Show. I think that experience really inspired the entire episode. It happened on a day when I had finished up earlier than I usually do at work, and it was a beautiful day. It was like spring weather, and I just felt like going for a walk in the woods. And there's this place near my house, that has like a really nice hiking trail
Mm,
that I've been to a lot in the past. But there were a whole bunch of like different little locations that I had been curious about in the past, but had never diverged from like the main path. And I just decided to explore all those different spaces that I had neglected before. And for whatever reason, I just decided to uh, grab my phone and start recording some of my experiences. And it really just, from discovering this like one offshoot path, it kind of sparked a whole bunch of curiosity in the other places around there. And I would say that almost entirely inspired the first episode to be made.
mm. Wow. So this curiosity is what inspired the whole project in general.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. Huh. And it's so funny when I was wanting to ask you that question, it was that exact moment that came to mind for me.
Yeah.
Because like I love the outdoors. I love hiking, love backpacking, and I find that a lot of times it is like I've always approached that area of my life in such a like regimented, structured way. Like we're going to look at the
Hmm.
map before we even go. We're going to know exactly where we're going. If we sense that we might be a little off trail, we're going to go back and we're going to start going through. And
Yeah.
like I just remember watching you, go all through the woods and you started watching the sunset. And even just then, even just vicariously experiencing that and watching you do it, I'm still having all these thoughts of like, well, what if it gets dark? Well, what's it going to do when it gets dark? How's it going to get back? And
Yeah.
so I sensed my own anxieties in just watching you be curious. And so I guess I want to ask you, are there, in that moment at least, were there any, because you said that you've been curious about this before. Was there
Hmm.
anything that you feel like had been kind of keeping you from allowing the curiosity to then manifest into the behavior?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've struggled with anxiety for most of my life. And like even when I was going for that walk, like the things that you don't see was like me constantly fearing that my phone battery was going to die like before I got home, and or like even just people walking by as I'm filming myself and like
Mm,
being self-conscious about doing all these like weird kind of childish things in public. And also like the point when I was kind of walking down the side of a very steep walking path, I was scared that I was gonna like fall down and hurt myself in some way and not be able to, and like I was alone on that day, and so like if I had
mm,
injured myself in any way, I didn't really have anyone that I could call to like rescue me or anything. And
mm.
so those kind of fears were very present, but I didn't let them hinder me still exploring curiosity.
Yeah, you found a way to push through.
Exactly.
Huh. Was there anything that I guess allowed you to do that? Like, was this a special day for you? Was it just, but did the feeling just kind of hit you? Like, today's the day we're going up there.
Yeah. I it wasn't. I don't think there was anything special that like it was just a normal day for me. Like I went to work in the
Mm,
morning, and I mean I was feeling pretty good when I woke up that day. And so like by the time I got to work, I was already in a pretty good place mentally, and so I think that definitely helped me to continue feeling good throughout the day.
mm.
Um, yeah, I don't think there was anything in particular that um, affected my ability to do that.
Hmm. Awesome. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like it speaks to I feel like sometimes the anxiety can be based around like, well, I feel like I'm not ready to make this step yet, and um, like we push this thing off over and over again because we feel like it's not the right time, and so I honestly really
Hmm.
love being able to hear that it was just let's go up, you know,
Yeah,
uh, I I I feel like that's very inspiring to be able to understand that we can kind of push through that at any given moment. Um,
definitely.
so I mean and feel free to uh, feel. I guess I wanted to ask um,
Yeah.
how you feel like given your experience with anxiety, have you found that maybe the anxiety has been limiting in the past for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've struggled specifically with social anxiety for
Mm,
a really long time, and that has definite like is one of the biggest reasons probably why I haven't uh, like done. certain things, or like put off phone conversations that I like need to have, or put off like responding to important emails, or even just putting off just introducing myself to people like in the real world, and constantly like playing these scenarios in my head of every way that this conversation could go wrong, and like constantly thinking and overthinking about everything that could go wrong in any situation. Um, and so it has had a profound impact on my life, I'd say, so far.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of limitations from the what ifs. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Mm, I hear you. Have you found that that's changed as time's gone on? Like, are there things that have made things more manageable for you?
Um, so one thing that I have started doing just in the past year or so, um, is I just talk to myself,
Mm,
where I'll like go for a walk, and I kind of call it talking to my conscience,
mm,
where I'll like specifically on days when like I'm having a rough time or feel that my anxiety is worse than usual. I'll just
mm,
kind of talk out how I'm feeling, almost like I'm talking to a therapist or something, and I'll say the things of like, oh well, how how is this making you feel, or why do
mm,
you think you're experiencing this, and I'll treat it like I'm talking to another person that I really value,
mm.
and that has really allowed me to unpack some of the things going on in my head, and figuring out why I'm feeling certain things, and also allowing myself to feel certain ways, like
Mm.
not bottling up my anger or frustration, but just saying like it's totally valid to feel frustrated right now, so let's just feel
Yes.
frustrated.
Yes. Yes. And I feel like you're talking about something that so often I still don't necessarily know fully. I guess it's different for everybody what it is that causes people to do it, but people so often just shut these things down. And it's just
Yeah,
like the second that emotion gets going, it's like, no, we aren't feeling this, we aren't talking about this, anything like that.
yeah, yeah. I think that can be really damaging
Mm,
to oneself, and it's something that I used to do all the time, where like when I was growing up, I had kind of like a toxic positivity kind of
mm,
mindset, where I'd be like, no more sad things, or only happy from now on, like we're not feeling any negative emotions. And I realized just in the past couple of years how that kind of mindset was affecting me, and how important it is to experience those more negative emotions, and
mm.
how it can kind of get you to see things in a different way.
Right. I mean, in talking about the dialogue that you have with yourself, which is something I've been really trying to practice recently myself. Because
Hmm.
I too have a really fractured style of communicating with myself, and I too have spent,
Hmm.
because I mean anxiety is so uncomfortable, and it's something that I know for myself, experiencing it for such a long amount of time, at some point
Hmm.
it's just like, just go away. Like, just whatever I got to do to make this stop, I will make it stop. And
Yeah.
which feeds into avoiding things and not wanting to do things, and feeds into, shutting off your emotions when they start to happen. But I feel like that dialogue that you talk about really opening up, that's a lot of what our emotions are. It's our body, it's our traumas, it's our childhood selves trying to tell us something like, I need you to listen, I need this from us, so that we can begin to relieve some of this. And so
Yeah.
I feel like what you're talking about, of listening to these emotions and talking back to it, in having that dialogue with yourself, it makes such a profound amount of sense,
Hmm.
and why it would be such a healing type of thing. Um, I guess I wonder if it has helped you in ways outside of, I guess, just the anxiety part, if it has just helped you to, I guess, in a sense, just build a better relationship with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, so one way that um, that kind of played out was around 2 years ago. So one thing that I've always struggled with is just feeling seen, I
Mm,
guess, because I'm not formally diagnosed, but around 2 years ago, I made the realization that I was autistic, and it came at a time when I was feeling very invisible to the world.
mm,
That I always felt like I was on the outside looking in, like seeing all my friends or all my peers like having a great time and getting to know each other, but that I was just like part of the furniture or a fly on the
mm,
wall, kind of looking into a snow globe and never feeling like I was a part of any group that I was really a part of.
mm,
And um, there was this one day when I was just on YouTube and was recommended this video that said like 10 common autism traits or something. And I watched the video and like resonated with every single thing it was talking about.
mm,
And so that really got me interested in looking up more. And so I did a whole bunch of research and talked with other people who were autistic and tried to like compare life experiences, and that really helped me to like recontextualize my life, and it just made everything make so much sense. um, and so that was like, and so in that moment when I realized that I was autistic, it made me question everything that I had known about
mm,
myself, and made me realize that for pretty much my entire life, I had been masking who
mm,
I was. I was trying to put on this persona that I had seen in the world around me of like people that were cool or like
mm,
TV characters that seemed like they knew what they were doing. And so I was mimicking all these people around me, but was never truly myself. And
mm,
so that was a really terrifying realization to make, that where I had no idea who I was. And so I one day just made the decision that I am going to create myself from scratch. I'm going
mm,
to talk to myself about what things I value in the world, like my core values as a person, so that no matter who I decide to become, I know that these facts are always going to be true. And then from there, I just kind of created the version of myself that I wanted to be.
mm. Wow. And so, like you said, you kind of started from scratch. You started just building, making that
Yeah,
connection, trying to, I guess, further discover yourself and express the values that you wanted to express.
exactly.
Mm. I man, I feel like I go sort of like both ways on this. Like it just because it sounds like it can be such a fulfilling experience to be able to, really like, okay, let's break down the mask. Let's begin to really just get down to like who am I? Like who have I been this whole time? And at the same
Yeah,
time, I understand that unmasking can be a bit scary sometimes. Working through that.
yeah,
I wonder what your
yeah.
experience has been like with that.
Yeah, so there are definitely places where I feel more safe unmasking around people. Like I really have to trust the other person in order to kind of let my guard down for a little bit. And then there are other times where I'll be interacting with someone who it clearly doesn't really understand things about like being neurodivergent or autistic or ADHD or gender fluid or something, and where I feel out of necessity that I have to leave the mask on a little bit just
Mm.
to make them more comfortable with like social norms or whatever. But I'm definitely starting to get better about attempting to unmask in just everyday scenarios.
Mm. I can appreciate that. That
Hmm.
it's not like an all or nothing thing of just like it's off and it's not going back on. But you know,
Right.
you're easing yourself into things, and you know, you're recognizing the times when it's like, okay, it's let's just kind of keep it on for a little bit during this interaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, I guess in beginning to unmask and just in beginning to look into again the chasing the curiosity even about yourself. Have you
Hmm.
found, I guess, communicate no, not communication, like communities on YouTube, TikTok, that you feel like have been have really spoken to you? It's just been has kind of helped you through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say TikTok is probably the community that
Mm,
I feel like the most able to be myself in. So I originally created my TikTok account kind of as a joke
mm,
because I had seen it was in I think like May of 2019. I had seen this one YouTube video of this guy I followed, Ryan Trahan, who made a video where he attempted to go TikTok viral in 24 hours.
mm,
And I saw that video and he did pretty well. And so I was like, oh, I can do that.
mm.
And so I created the account and I tried to like follow trends that seemed popular at the time, and very quickly found out that it was a lot harder than I originally imagined.
Yes.
And so that made me pretty discouraged. And so I would watch TikToks, but didn't really make anything for a little while. And then the school year came around, and I just felt like making little silly videos just about stuff that I was doing, or like lip syncing to popular song bits or something. And over time, started getting more familiar and comfortable with using the app, and would show more personal sides of my life. And over time, started to get a little bit of a following, and people who seemed genuinely interested in who I was and my life. And that was like the first glimpse into what it became, which I'm now incredibly grateful for the community that I've been able to build over there. And I've been able to really show all the aspects of my life, and people seem really engaged and interested in what I have to say and what I'm doing.
Mm,
And so that's been really gratifying.
I could bet. I mean, that's where I had initially found you was through TikTok as well. Um,
Yeah.
and I've seen so much, you know, uh, again, it's so diverse, but you know, there is like so much like just positivity is the word that consistently jumps out to me. You
Hmm.
know, playing some music. Even I think the most recent video of yours that I saw was like the lip sync to the "If I Were a Fish and You Caught Me,"
Yeah.
which beautiful song. I
Oh,
love
I
that.
love that
It's
song.
been stuck in my head for the past 2 days.
Yeah, I think it comes out on streaming services later this week.
Oh, awesome! Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
So I guess for you, I mean, I definitely hear that, you know, there's the community, and I feel like people oftentimes they talk about the real negative side to social media, which it absolutely exists. There can be just this
Yeah.
very gross underbelly, but at the
Hmm.
same time, there's this beautiful sense of community. And I mean, I feel like I've been on every social media app, and I've never connected with people the way that I have on TikTok. Um,
Absolutely.
like it finds your people.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. So
Yeah. I've been like looking into like all the updates about the TikTok ban that's been
right.
proposed, and that it's really scary to think about the idea of losing that sense of community that I've been building over the last 4 years or so. Because you're absolutely right that I really don't think that type of community exists on any other like social media platform at the moment.
Hmm.
And I don't know what it is about TikTok, but there's something where you're absolutely right, where it just finds your people.
Mm. And I can absolutely relate to that fear of losing that community. Um,
Yeah.
I know initially when like it was like okay, they're gonna have like a whole committee hearing on this, and just seeing um, the way that they were approaching it in such just a harsh way. Like it wasn't like the typical like two sides of the coin. It was just like no, we're all very much against this app.
Yeah.
Um, it that was definitely one of the things that was hitting me a lot of just I couldn't imagine backing up from here and having
Yeah.
to figure all this out again. Because I mean, similar to like what you're talking about of like being able to like hear stories that you just relate so much to and that teaching you so much about yourself. That's an experience I've absolutely had as well. Um,
Yeah.
and I see other people having those experiences, and so um, it does just seem like so many people would lose their communities, which is a terrible thing to have to imagine.
Yeah.
Um, at least for the time being, what do you feel like you really hope to? What do you hope to? I guess I can't remember what the word is for it. I guess to get out through your content. Like, what is it that you try to capture through your content?
I would say the biggest thing that I tried to capture on my account is just hope and
Hmm.
show finding ways to show that the world is not as terrible and hateful as people seem to think that it is, and show all the little beauties
Hmm.
around us all the time, um, and just show that you're allowed to be happy when the world is in chaos.
Mm. I can appreciate that. You're allowed to be
Hmm.
happy when the world's in chaos. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Thank you.
Huh. So I know one of the I mean, you use the term optimist in your username, Jamie the Optimist.
Yeah.
Which is that your musician name as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie the Optimist is the name that I use for my music,
Mm.
which is on all streaming services. Um, and yeah, because optimism has always been a word that's kind of been associated with me. Like
Mm.
when people are referring to me to other people, I feel like I've heard that word used a lot, and
Mm.
it's something that I I hold really near and dear to my heart as like one of my core values. Um, and I feel like a lot of people, when they hear the word optimism, they assume that it means like, oh, you think everything is
Mm.
great, and kind of this like toxic positivity kind of mindset, or the cliche is like glass half full.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to me, optimism is about being able to see the good in everything around you, no matter how it may present or how other people might see it, that there is always good things happening around you, and being able to observe those things, and uh, having always having the best intentions toward people, and
Mm.
assuming good intentions from other people as well.
Mm. I can appreciate that. Trying to notice notice the good things that are consistently passing us by, rather
Yeah,
than, I guess, hyperfixating on the negative.
exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Hmm.
At the same time, I also do recognize that there is that doom part, and with further access to all of the information in the world, um, I am also very cognizant of the fact that there is so much negativity and so much doom that I feel like we are faced with on a daily basis. So, I mean, how does one try to maintain optimism?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really difficult sometimes, and part of the reason that I try to associate myself with optimism is almost as a way to hold myself accountable,
Mm.
because there are a lot of days when I wake up and I'll like see a news article or something, and I just it makes me start to lose hope in the world that we live in,
Mm.
and it's so easy to fall down that rabbit hole of doom, and uh, just always feeling like the world is about to end.
Mm-hmm.
But that way of living, at least for me, is really not sustainable. And I think part of it, as bad as it might sound, is just like being able to tune out some of that noise. Like
Mm.
it like obviously things are really scary in the world right now, and like it's sometimes difficult to imagine a future
Mm-hmm.
in the world that we live in. But I often find that that way of thinking is not helpful to me,
Mm.
and so I tried to turn down the volume on the static that we hear all the time,
Mm.
and just uh, turn my attention towards the the beauty
Mm.
that is around us.
Yeah, very well put, Jamie. Um,
Thank you.
and I really appreciate that you used the word static. It's not
Hmm.
about tuning things out completely. It is about becoming a little bit more focused, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and I know I feel like that's part of what I would really love to be able to do with my life, because
Hmm.
I care a lot about everything, and I focus too much on, I think, the static. Like,
Hmm.
there are very core issues in our society going on right now, but the part that always grabs my attention is people being like horrible to each other, and like watching like gotcha debates, or like I'll be scrolling through
Hmm.
TikTok and it's one of those lives where there are 16 people in a room, all of them arguing. And
Yeah.
it's just like, that kind of thing is incredibly toxic, and it pulls away from your ability to then be effective in addressing, these core issues that are at the center of the static, right?
Yeah.
And, when it comes to optimism, being able to see and notice and raise up the people who are doing the good work in these areas, and being able to, remain hopeful that there
Hmm.
is something that can be done. I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know, I resonate so much with that word that you used of static and tuning out that
Hmm.
static. I really love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any things that you, I guess, practice on a daily basis, or just somewhat frequently, that help you to kind of stay in this headspace, that help you to remain, a little tuned out of the static, or at least turned down from the static?
Yeah. I think so. One thing that I've always been kind of not necessarily self-conscious about, but I've been aware of the thoughts that this provokes of um, I feel like activism is
Mm-hmm.
a huge like thing right now, and um, people always like wanting everyone to be involved and to help like people who are in oppressed minority groups, and that it's so easy to say like, oh well, what are you doing
Mm,
to help the cause, and like feel inadequate at like my actions and feel like I'm not contributing to help a cause or something.
mm,
Um, but one thing that I made a TikTok about recently was the idea that you can't help others if you don't help yourself
mm,
first, and just like being able to smile at someone at the grocery store or
mm,
something, even though it might not help end racism as like a whole or something, it might be just enough to help someone have a little bit of a better day.
mm,
Um, and that like these kinds of small things are things that we can do on like a smaller scale to make the world a tiny bit of a better place,
mm,
and that's um, that like you don't have to get involved in every like uh, activist group, because
mm,
I mean it's absolutely great to help when you can and like
mm,
sign petitions and like have conversations with people, but that it's also important to be able to help yourself so that you can help others.
mm. Yeah, I think that the saying that people often use is you can't pour from an empty glass.
Exactly.
Mm. It, that makes a lot of sense as well, and I think you do bring up really good points of being able to, of course, take care of ourselves and, to utilize even small moments as a moment of, being able to implement change.
Yeah.
Small moments with a stranger can really change the whole trajectory of their day.
Yeah.
And then when we have that, when we have the ability to become, you know, when we have the ability to get into a very focused mission, being able to seize those opportunities, when they become available,
Yeah.
um, but making sure that we're focused in a way where we can continue to be effective, and we're not taking
Exactly.
on every issue that we could possibly take on.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Um, so I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about your music.
Sure.
So for you, what is it that I guess began to get you into music?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very musical household. My parents both played instruments and sang, and were good friends with a lot of like local musicians, and so I was kind of, and also I would listen to a lot of like the Beatles and
Mm,
Bob Dylan and Pete Seeger and other like folk and folk rock uh, style musicians, and so that was the atmosphere that I was raised under. And every year we would go to the Philadelphia Folk Festival,
mm,
and I remember there was this one year when I believe Jake Shumabukaru was like the one of the main headline performers, and he's a very talented ukulele player. And I remember seeing that and being like, oh, that's like I want to do that kind of thing.
mm,
And so there was this craft area that where like a whole bunch of vendors can sell things to people, and there was this one vendor that was from like a music shop, and they were selling like ukuleles and other instruments. And I remember asking my parents if I could get uh, a ukulele, and they didn't get it for me in that moment. But
mm,
my when my next birthday came around, they got me a ukulele, and so I just started learning chords and being able to play songs that I liked, and then eventually started writing my own music and started performing it, and people
mm.
seemed to really enjoy the stuff that I was doing, and I haven't stopped since.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
And you've like you said, you've got music out on all streaming platforms. Jamie the Optimist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess I'm curious in the trajectory of how it all went. So I mean, you get the ukulele, you begin practicing, you begin making music, and then at some point you traversed into beginning to make your own music.
Yeah.
Which I mean, as somebody who plays music myself, I know that
Mm-hmm.
that is such a step up from just
Yeah.
doing covers and just playing other people's music. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and this I feel like relates all back to again chasing curiosity, and so I wonder how that went for you in your music, and what that was like beginning to embrace the not only writing the music but then performing it for people.
Yeah. Yeah. So performing the music was definitely a, a initially very difficult, and like my anxiety would always uh, come up like right as I was about to perform, and be like constantly worrying about
Mm,
the worst case scenario kind of thing.
right.
But I think my love for creating and performing would always outweigh those negative self talks that I had, um, which was how I was able to continue doing
Mm,
it. But there's definitely always times when I would constantly doubt myself and
mm,
doubt my abilities and be like, oh, this is not the best song that you could have written, and people are gonna hate
mm,
it. And
right.
but but somehow I find a way to overcome those feelings.
Yeah. And that is so difficult. We can all be our own worst critic a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
How do you, I guess, do you view it differently now? Like, do you view writing music and do you view performing a little bit differently than you did, like, before that first song was written, before that first performance?
Yeah, I think I've definitely been able to develop my own sound and style over the years. That like when I was originally starting out, I would just try to like copy whatever
Mm,
artist or song I was really into at the time, and would try to write lyrics in the style of the artist that I was into. Um, but then during college was when I really started to like put music out, and I was also really into like writing poetry at that
mm,
time. And so one thing that helped inspire uh, song lyrics was I would take ideas from poems that I had written and tried to turn them more into like a lyric style, and try to make things rhyme more, but also have songs that were just like words in an order that I had wanted to put them in without caring about rhyme scheme and things like that.
mm. Okay. I like that. You
Yeah.
approach it more of like, I don't know, it does sound more personal that you are just like, you're taking your own poetry or you're just, even just in general, just taking words and just, let's get them out first and then
Yeah,
kind of go from there.
exactly.
Huh. Okay. And I feel like, this also harkens back to one of the things that you talked about of like, being okay with making mistakes and being okay with messing up. It does seem like it's far more safe to do something that's already been done, but it is
Hmm.
massively threatening to try to create your own style and try to go in your own direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that kind of feeling is very present even still today, about like feeling like I'm leaning too heavily on certain influences, and
Mm,
feeling like, oh, people can totally tell that I'm like borrowing this idea from another song.
mm,
Um, but one thing that I've been trying to uh, get better at is just being more confident in my own abilities to create things and not caring about how it turns out or caring about if there's something I could do to make it better, because like finishing projects is probably
Mm.
my biggest weakness at the moment, where I have a million ideas and I
Right.
start all of them, but like all of them just stay in that unfinished stage.
Mm.
And so just being able to say, okay, this is as good as I can make this right now. I'm just going to put it out. I'm not going to care about how people react to it. I have created a new thing, and this thing now exists,
Mm.
and that's okay, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a moment of incredible vulnerability as well.
Yeah,
Wow, to be able to just like we're going. It's out now. I
yeah,
love that.
exactly.
Do you do all of it yourself as well? Like, do you write all the parts, do all the producing, all of that?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So I produce all my own songs, and so far I have not used any samples in my music. So everything that you hear is 100% original, or
Mm-hmm.
at least like inspired by other things. But
Mm-hmm.
then I record all my songs, I write the lyrics, I mix everything, I master it, I promote everything myself. Um, and it's pretty exhausting to say
Yes.
the least. But yeah, I've always been really stubborn with the
Mm.
things that I create, and feeling like I'm the only person who can see the things that I want
Mm.
to create. Like I've never been able to trust other people in seeing my vision,
Mm.
and that's something that I've been trying to get better at recently, and have the understanding that other people have knowledge that I can draw from, and that I don't have to do everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there's actually several people that I'm planning on collaborating with in the near future on music things, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, let's go. That'll be such
Yeah,
an interesting experience.
yeah, definitely.
And I feel like it'll it can not only result in some awesome music, but given that it is a growing edge for you, it can be a great opportunity to be able to face a little bit of the anxiety, a little bit of the vulnerability that it takes to give up a little bit of control,
Yeah,
which is such a difficult thing to do. I
yeah.
definitely empathize with that.
Hmm.
So I can definitely admire that you're attempting to go in that direction.
Thank you.
Um, So I hear that those are some of the projects you're working towards now. Um,
Hmm.
One of the last things that I noticed in doing some research for getting ready for the podcast today, it was that you have a podcast of your own that you were working on. So tell
Yeah,
us a bit about the Hey, how you doing podcast.
sure. So the Hey, How You Doing podcast is a comedy podcast with myself and a character that I created last summer named Sunset Jerry, and he's your standard like New York Italian
Mm-hmm.
American citizen, where he grew up trying to like where he was told that he had to be like very macho and
Mm.
can conceal his emotions and stuff, but he at his core is a very sensitive person, and
Mm.
has a very warm energy to him, and is very passionate about sunsets and other very specific topics. And so the podcast is basically a conversation between Jamie and Jerry, um, and we talk about different life experiences. And eventually I want to try and make the podcast be kind of like an advice show, where people can like write in with a situation that they've been
Mm.
in recently that they want help or advice about, and then the two of us just kind of talk about how we would go about handling that situation.
Mm.
I haven't really done anything like that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would need to like set up a system for people to be able to write into the show.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the direction that eventually I'd like to kind of pivot it towards.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I love
Thank
that
you.
idea of yeah, the advice piece. That's a really good idea.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I mean, with all of these different things going on, I mean, how do you find the time for things? How do you prioritize? How do you just how do you?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge on a day-to-day basis, there's there are some times where I kind of have to force myself to be creative or to
Mm,
like focus on a certain thing where I will have an idea of when I would like a certain thing to be finished, and I know the steps that I need to take in order to get it there, but the actual doing of
mm-hmm.
the things is probably the most difficult,
Yes.
especially when you have to deal with other life things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to find the time around like working to
Mm,
like try and get everything done. Because at the moment I'm just working part time at a grocery store near my house, and I work the evening shifts,
mm,
and so it's by the time I get home, I'm so exhausted that I
mm.
really don't have the energy to put into the things that I want to create, which has been really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because money is so necessary in the world
Right.
that we live in, um, and at the moment has kind of consumed my energy for this the last like 4 or 5 months or so.
Mm,
And so I've really had to be disciplined and be able to try and work through um, like being exhausted and still
mm.
trying to work towards the things that I want to make.
Right. I hear that. And it's such
Hmm.
a difficult balance having to balance the necessities of life with the things that we are genuinely passionate about, the things that give us life.
Yeah,
Um, it's such a difficult balance. And I mean,
exactly.
I really hope that you're able to, able to continue to do the things that you love because you are clearly so creative and so talented in so many different areas. And I really do hope that you get to continue to do that. Um,
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely, Jamie. And I've worked the graveyard shift before. I used to work a 7-Eleven graveyard shift, and
Hmm.
it was tough. That's a tough business, having to work at night
Yeah,
and then sleep during the day. Um,
yeah.
so it's very impressive that you've been able to continue to do what you do.
Thank you.
Uh, so I guess as we begin bringing things to a close today, it's been a real pleasure getting to talk to you, getting to know who you are, and getting to hear a lot of your perspective on things. Um,
Likewise.
so I guess just generally, like, what do you feel like you would really like your message to be to everybody listening? Um, yeah,
Uh, ooh.
and you can only choose one thing, one very specific thing.
Yeah. I guess my message for people is being your authentic self is really the only thing that matters. And as difficult as it is that nobody else's opinion of you really matters, that your own the way that you see yourself is the only thing that matters, and you have the ability to become whoever it is that you want to be. um, yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing message, Jamie. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, last but not least, Jamie, anything you would like to plug? Where can the people find your content, your music, everything?
Yeah. So you can follow me on TikTok at Jamie the Optimist. Um, you can find my music on all streaming services, also Jamie the Optimist. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Jamie Polson. Um, and check out the first episode of the Jamie Show, which I'm incredibly proud of. And episode 2 is coming pretty soon. Um, and yeah, I have a couple albums on the way that I'm very excited for. One of which I'm planning on dropping in early June. It's called Howl at the Moon. I'm very excited for that and to share it with the world. Um, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I have both a personal and like music account. It's at Jamie the Optimist Official for my music, and at jamie.paulson for my more just everyday life account. But yeah,
Let's go. I'm very, very excited for episode 2.
thank you so
and
much.
and also the music. Looking forward to it, man.
Thank you.
So, all right, Jamie the Optimist, Jamie Polson, thank you so much for coming on the Please Stay Inside podcast. It's been wonderful getting to have you.
Thank
Um,
you so much. It's been an honor to be interviewed for this, and it's been really nice getting to talk with you for the last hour or so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you to everybody who is either watching live on YouTube or is listening later on whatever streaming platform you use. This has been the Please Stay Inside podcast. My name is Rob. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will talk again next time.